It's going to get her out. Good D by Mitchell.
Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark had always been known for her composure, her confidence, and her ability to rise to the moment. But in this rare and deeply revealing conversation with WNBA legend Sue Bird, she peeled back the curtain in a way that even her most dedicated fans had never seen before, speaking with raw honesty about the physical battles, mental struggles, and emotional roller coaster of her rookie IRA season that, from the outside, seemed like just another chapter in a promising career, but from the inside, was a test of resilience unlike anything she had ever faced. She admitted this was her first real, in-depth conversation of the season, and as she leaned into the questions, you could sense the weight of what she'd been carrying. The expectations of a fan base, hungry for wins, the spotlight that seemed to follow her everywhere, and the quiet, lonely hours in empty gyms where she fought just to be able to suit up and play. Clark didn't shy away from the truth. Injuries had derailed her rhythm, forcing her to miss multiple games, sparking a wave of criticism not just about her performance, but about the Fever's ability to compete without her. She spoke with a calm voice, but her words painted a vivid picture of frustration and determination, explaining how hard it was to stay both physically and mentally ready when her body wasn't cooperating. It's been so challenging going from playing actively to sitting out, trying to rehab and trust the process, she said, and you could almost hear the echo of those quiet rehab sessions. The resistance bands snapping back, the endless ice baths, and the long walks back to her car after another day of slow progress. Unlike most rookies, Clark hadn't had the luxury of a traditional training camp to ease into professional basketball. She was thrown straight into the fire. Game 30% of the season. No build-up, no time to adjust. That sudden leap meant she was learning on the fly against some of the best players in the world. And every night felt like a new exam where the questions were harder, the pace faster, and the stakes higher. She revealed that she often arrives at arenas 4 hours early, long before the crowd arrives, just to get her body loose, her mind sharp, and her confidence steady. Those quiet moments before the chaos of the game, when the only sounds are the squeak of shoes on the court and the thud of the ball against hardwood, have become her private ritual, a way to remind herself why she fights through the pain. The injury journey, she admitted, has been a humbling education, teaching her patience and forcing her to listen to her body in ways she never had before. "I've never dealt with pain like this," she confessed, describing the confusion of trying to figure out whether what she felt was just tightness, soreness, or something more serious, and learning the hard way that pushing through can sometimes set you back. But she didn't just talk about the pain. She spoke about how this season, tough as it's been, would make her stronger in the long run, shaping her into not just a better player, but a tougher person. Transitioning from college to the pros was another challenge she couldn't have fully prepared for. The defensive strategies were sharper, the opponents were stronger, and the basketball IQ across the league was sky-high. In college, she said, you could run the same plays over and over because they worked. But in the pros, those plays might work once, maybe twice, before the defense adapts, forcing you to constantly adjust, think faster, and execute cleaner. She smiled when talking about how much she's learned, but there was also a flicker of frustration when she spoke about the All-Star Game format, wishing there was more energy, more competitiveness, more of that fire that fans expect from the league's biggest showcase. Last year was different. This year, I wish we'd tried harder to make it more fun and exciting, she said, her tone equal parts honest and hopeful. And then there were the turnovers, a stat that has followed her all season, often becoming the headline for critics. She didn't dodge the subject, instead owning it as part of the growing pains of adjusting to a league where the margin for error is razor thin, and every defender is capable of turning a lazy pass into an easy bucket the other way. But what made this interview truly magnetic was the way Clark wove all these moments: the injuries, the criticisms, the adjustments into a bigger story about identity, growth, and the unshakable will to keep showing up, even when it would be easier to quit. She described nights where she'd leave the arena long after the final buzzer, the parking lot almost empty, wondering if she was doing enough, and mornings where she'd wake up sore but still drag herself to practice because she knew her teammates were counting on her. She talked about conversations with veterans who reminded her that every great player has been through seasons like this, where nothing seems to come easy, and how those talks helped her keep perspective. She even shared the moments fans don't see, like sitting alone in her apartment after a tough loss, watching game film until 2 a.m., pausing, rewinding, and replaying plays over and over until she could spot exactly where things went wrong. And in those moments, you realize this isn't just about basketball. It's about a young woman learning to navigate pressure, pain, and public scrutiny, all while trying to hold on to the joy that made her fall in love with the game in the first place. Her journey, as she told it, wasn't a highlight reel, it was a grind full of highs and lows, setbacks and breakthroughs, and the quiet, unglamorous work that separates the good from the great. By the end of the conversation, Sue Bird was smiling not because the story was all happy, but because it was real, and in that realness, you could see why Caitlin Clark's rookie year, no matter how challenging, might just be the foundation for something extraordinary in the years to come. A story that fans will look back on and say, that's when she became unstoppable. And if you've been following her, you know this isn't the end of her story, it's the beginning. And everything she's gone through this year is only adding fuel to the fire that's still burning inside. He died.
Green, Alamon in the paint. Trail shot from Stevens. Good.
When Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court for her long-awaited WNBA debut, the arena buzzed with anticipation, the kind of electric hum that only happens when the crowd knows they're about to witness something historic. Yet no one, not the fans, not the critics, not even Clark herself could have predicted how that night would unfold. It wasn't just another game, it was a baptism by fire. And in those 40 minutes, the bright lights and fierce pace of the league gave her both a warm welcome and a cold reminder of the level she was now playing at. She ended that debut with 10 turnovers, a number that would follow her into headlines and social media debates for days, maybe weeks. After, the box score didn't tell the whole story, but the critics didn't care. Sports talk shows questioned if she had been overhyped. Fans split into camps of defenders and doubters, and basketball analysts dissected every pass, every decision, as if she were a puzzle they were trying to solve. Clark didn't dodge the criticism. In fact, she met it head-on, walking into the Fever locker room after that game and apologizing to her teammates before anyone else could speak. I'm a high-risk, high-reward player. I take chances, and sometimes they don't pay off, she admitted, the words carrying both accountability and defiance. That line alone said everything you needed to know about her. She wasn't going to shrink under pressure. And she wasn't going to change the aggressive style that had made her a star just because it had backfired on night one. She even pointed out, with a half smile, that she had led the NCAA in turnovers during her college career. Something she acknowledged as both a reflection of her boldness and a flaw she was still working to polish. Maybe it's a toxic part of me, but I'm always optimistic a play will work. Even if it doesn't, she confessed. And you could hear the hint of stubborn self-belief that's fueled so many of her biggest moments. But the numbers, the stats, the turnovers, they were just one layer of what this rookie year was turning into for Caitlin Clark. What people couldn't see from the outside was the mental recalibration required to go from dominating college games to facing the most elite defenders in the world. Women who had been studying her film for months and were waiting to pounce on even the smallest misstep. She talked openly in her sit-down with WNBA legend Sue Bird about how she's had to learn to manage not just her body, which has been through its share of injuries this season, but also the pace and flow of professional basketball. I feel more confident late in games and better at controlling the pace than I was as a rookie, she said, reflecting on how experience earned the hard way was starting to pay off. Injuries had been a cruel companion through the season, sidelining her for multiple games, forcing her into endless rehab sessions, and making her confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes no amount of willpower can rush recovery. She spoke about arriving at arenas 4 hours early, before most of her teammates, to get treatment, stretch, and prepare her mind for battle, painting a picture of someone who wasn't just showing up to play, but doing everything in her power to make sure she could. This wasn't just about surviving a season, it was about laying the foundation for a career, and Clark understood that. She described the adjustment from college to the pros as a leap into a faster, smarter, more relentless game, one where plays that worked in Iowa would be scouted and shut down by the second quarter in the WNBA in college. We ran the same plays over and over because they worked, but in the pros, opponents adapt quickly, she explained, acknowledging that she's had to evolve her game on the fly. Her honesty was refreshing. She didn't sugarcoat the frustration of the All-Star game, either, saying she wished it had been more competitive, more fun for the fans, and more true to the spirit of showcasing the league's best talent. Last year was different. This year, "I wish we'd tried harder to make it more exciting," she said, a candid take that will no doubt resonate with viewers who felt the same. But perhaps the most powerful part of the conversation was how she reframed her as failures, but as lessons. Every turnover became an opportunity to read defenses better. Every loss was a reminder that leadership isn't about pointing fingers, it's about owning your part and inspiring others to push forward. She recalled the times she stayed in the gym late after a bad game, shooting until her arms ached, replaying possessions in her head, and breaking down film until she could pinpoint exactly where things went wrong. Those are the moments fans don't see. The ones that don't make highlight reels, but are the heartbeat of every great athlete's journey. And Clark's transparency about her mental battles, about questioning herself after a rough stretch, about pushing through pain, about refusing to let public opinion dictate her identity, added a new layer of respect for her as not just a scorer, but a leader in the making. She admitted that there were nights she drove home from the arena in silence, wrestling with the gap between her expectations and reality. But there were also mornings she woke up determined to close that gap, one possession at a time. Sue Bird, who's been through her own share of rookie struggles, seemed to understand perfectly, nodding as Clark spoke, offering the kind of encouragement that only comes from someone who's lived it. By the end of the nearly 2-hour interview, what emerged